Hey there, outliers. Niiamah Ashong here, and thank you so much for letting us be a part of your journey here today. I'm excited that here on the Outliers Edge Roundtable, we brought together three incredible outliers who are going to share more about how they continue leveling up their game to make more impact, more income, and up level their identity. Let's give you a chance to get to know these outliers here today. Why don't we start over you? Why don't we start over with you, David? Would you mind letting us know more about you and the game you're playing right now?
Okay, thank you for this invite. And my name is David Gyawu. I am a pastor of personal faith. I am an author, a podcaster, and I'm also certified with the John Maxwell Leadership Coaching Speaking Company. And I host this podcast on every Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm based in Virginia, Stafford, Virginia. And that is what I'm doing now.
Thank you, David. Can you remind us what's the name of your podcast that you're hosting?
I'm sorry, the question again.
Can you remind us the name of the podcast that you host?
Oh, the podcast, the name of the podcast is Step Out, Step In. It was actually based on the title of the book I wrote back in 2020.
Nice. Well, I love this year. I love these multiple components of just the multiple dimensions in which we show up in. It's great to have you here, David. We'll continue to play along with that. Craig,
Thank you.
let's get to know you. Do you mind telling us more about you and the game you're playing?
Yeah, thank you, Niam. Appreciate being here. Niiamah, excuse me. So I have 1 foot in higher ed and 1 foot outside. So in higher ed, I'm a department chair at National University, and outside of higher ed, I do corporate consulting. I do some presenting. I have a podcast called the Lorecast that I update every couple of weeks. I do some publishing. I've written books and published books, and I love to present, even though I'm an introvert. So that's a little bit about what I do.
This is fun. I love the, even though I'm an introvert component of it all, because I've talked to many leaders who are also introverts, and they're like, most people think that when I'm on stage I have to be like this big energetic person. It's like, no, like the two things about it is that one, when I'm on stage and everyone else is out there, I'm feeling good. Like you put me in the middle of the crowd of that's an energy suck. But like being out there,
Yeah.
like it can actually be an energy in, and then other people are like, you don't know what I do to prepare, because when I'm on that stage, I'm actually just putting out energy toward people as well. So I see you, Craig. I'm glad you brought that in. I love to play with this here, and I'm excited to see where the conversation goes. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
All right, Ben, let's get to know you here. Do you mind letting us know more about you and the game you're currently playing?
So I'm from Chile, moved to the US about 3.5 years ago. And chasing my dreams, so becoming a professional athlete, was competing in motocross, I got into ultra marathons, MMA. So I do a lot of different sports just because I love it so much, endurance stuff, and just pushing myself physically and my limits mentally. And then I started a brand, so I do a lot of social media and everything, kind of like an influencer and stuff. But my main thing is that I help younger kids from 18 all the way up to 25 to find their purpose and live a lifestyle with urgency. I found my purpose when I was 20. That's when God helped me remind me who I am and why I was created. And since then, He's changed my life. And the word urgency has impacted every single aspect of my life because I understand that we're here for a reason. And there's more to life than just going to work and doing the same thing every day, but you can actually have impact and have influence and leave your mark in this world. So I help young kids do that and live a life with purpose, especially when they're young.
That's fantastic, and I think that there's something really great about like the elements that you continue to push yourself physically, and then also the ways that you're able to like continue to uplift people around you around it. It there's a component of this where I'm like, oh, it's spoken like a true outlier. So I'm really glad that you're here, Ben. I'm excited for us to go and play here today.
Appreciate
So
it.
the first question I have for you all here is really just we talk about up leveling here, right? And y'all are continuing to grow. You've built your own platforms. You're finding different ways to go and support people. And some of the questions in my mind go to any outlier that's out there that's saying to themselves like, oh, I can't really play. Like, I can play at the level that I'm at, but I'm not really ready to play at the next level, right? And so I'm curious about a belief that needed to up level with you in order for you to play the game that you're currently playing. And I'll even say this because this is Outlier's Edge. So here goes the Edge version of that. The Edge version is, if you want, you can answer this question, which is, what's a belief that you're currently working on up leveling in order for you to get to your next level, right? So the first one is, what's a belief that already up leveled to get to where you are? But if you want to take the Edge version of it, it's what's one that's in progress for where you're looking to go, right? Um, why don't I just leave this? Let's get into practice of this here. I'll put the question here. Who feels called to answer it? Let's have you start there, and then we'll let the conversation naturally
Can I
evolve from
just
there.
ask you another question?
Yeah, Ben.
What's your audience? What's your audience like? The listen to stuff, is it like younger crowd, older crowd in the 30s, 20s, 40s? What is it?
Yeah, so we don't like demographically, we go all across the bit. We tend to be somewhere in like the 20s and above, so it's not like geared toward teenagers or anything like that, but like they tend to be working professionals that have a track record of success behind them, professionals and entrepreneurs, but like we have people who are retirees all the way through. So,
Oh, yeah.
all
So
right.
all stages of
Yeah.
life. Okay.
Yeah. I think the big thing is that it's less about the age that gets them, and it's more about the psychographics of like they're in the stage of life of, hey, I've seen stuff working for me. Like, and but how do I keep going? Because I'm not done yet, you know? And the people like, and I think like that element, some people are like, they come under like, they're too young. People are like, no one else is a 19-year-old or a 20-year-old who's done what I've done. And other people are like, I've retired and I'm 70 and I'm still moving forward. So I find like that psychographic has actually been something that like cuts through the age. And people are looking, it's the same problem, just in different areas. The people around me look at me one way, and I know that I'm so much more than that, but I'm trying to figure out how do I grow from there. Does that help, Ben?
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just that it's easy to like answer questions, but I think it's super important to understand who we're talking to, because like I think each group in certain demographic has a different interest or a different way you can approach to answer the question. Yeah. So
Yeah. Yeah. But what I know you talk to a certain group of people, so feel free to speak to them here. But what's your thoughts on the underlying question about a belief that you recently changed in order to play at the level you did or you do?
it's funny because a lot of people they think that I was I went out with this guy one time, one of my friends here in Utah. He's super successful. He's from LA. He's like 35. He owns like multiple franchises and stuff and everything. He's balling out financially. He's such a good dude. And we're talking here in Utah like 2:30 a.m. at a restaurant, and we're just talking about life and stuff. And out of the blue, he asked me, Ben, what comes first, belief or doing the work? And I'm like, belief, right? You got to believe it, and then you're going to do it, right? And then you do the work. And he's like, I want you to think, Ben, of every amazing, great thing you've done in your life. Did you actually believe you could do it? Or you behaved, you did it, and then the belief came. And then I was like, holy crap, dude, you're so right. And I love sports because I truly believe we can find a lot of analogies from sports to life. I remember when I was doing 50, 100-mile races with jacked up knees in the snow, raining by myself. And I told him, I'm like, dude, I didn't believe I could finish it. That's why every time I finished a race, I would get so emotional and would cry and do all this stuff because I wanted to quit the entire time, 15 hours that I was racing. But I behaved, I did the work regardless of how, if I believed it or not. And then I had evidence, and now my belief increased because I have results and I behave like that person. So I think a lot of people they expect to believe things, to feel things, and all these different stuff. Dude, I'm not a smart dude by any means. I moved to the US with nothing. I didn't know a single soul when I got here. I've mastered social media, going viral. I have a huge following. I've made so much money in sales. I started my own company. I've done public speaking, TED Talks, billboards. I've hung out with celebrities and all these people. And I'm like, I'm from San Felipe. I'm like 80,000 people, like in a farm. Like that's where I'm from. But the difference is that I took a lot of action, and all my friends that are really successful, because I tried to study success principles so I can apply them in my life, so I can win at an earlier age instead of waiting 30, 40, or 50. And one of my friends, this dude is 27, and dude, he has so much money. And we're talking about this, and he told me, Ben, I live by this phrase: commit now, figure out the rest later. Is action, it's behaving, it's doing the work. Screw belief. You figure it out as you go. And once you have enough results and work and evidence, your belief increases. But all successful people, even though they show on social media that they're so special, well, they're not. They're just regular people, regular guys that their level of IQ is not very high, but they're just really good at mastering the basic principles of action and figuring stuff out because they have that internal confidence that I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to figure it out. So I would say that.
I'm gonna keep this open. Keep bring more in. Craig, David, what do you have on this in here? Ben, thank you so much for getting us started with this one.
Yeah. Yeah.
I really like that philosophy. I'm thinking back over times that I did things that changed the course of my life. And like Ben was saying, a lot of times I didn't believe I could, or I had a belief that was in my way or whatever. And what has helped me sometimes is just to do it. And back when I did psychotherapy with people, there was a number of situations where people would get tangled up in, I think of it in terms of story rather than belief, but they both work, right? So they would have a story that said, I can't take the risk, I can't go to the next level. And I would tell them, what if you just did? I mean, what if you just tried, right? And so that became part of my counseling style with them. And then I learned to apply it to myself as I went too. I came from a violent home, a violent family. And so I think part of that was not getting comfortable with it, but just learning that sometimes you just have to act and then see what happens later. So I like that way of holding it.
Craig, sorry, are you a doctor in what? What's your area of specialty?
My one PhD in psychology and the other in philosophy and religion.
In psychology, I'm pretty sure you studied the brain a lot, how it works and everything. And I want to ask you this, I mean, you studied for years, but I really like the brain. I feel like I study the brain more in a world way, not in like a scientific way, but like doing things about life decisions and everything. And the cool thing that I've learned is that the brain is very moldable. There's a lot of
Yeah.
plasticity, and
Yep.
you can change the way you think, you can reprogram your brain and everything. So
Yeah.
do you think how much does it affect somebody, like their trauma, their demons, their childhood, like all this stuff into like actually leveling up in life? Like how much those beliefs growing up actually impede them and hold them back to actually take action? Do you think?
It can be a huge influence, but part of what I learned during 6 years when I did men's groups for guys who had gone to jail or prison, and a lot of these guys, some of them were poor, they were all different levels, but basically the ones that got caught, right? And so they had done jail time or prison time for acts of violence. They came into our counseling groups.
I think we lost him.
I noticed with them, it was a learning for me that some guys had huge trauma, and in the group saw them decide, okay, I need to get my life together. I can't just let this determine who I am. So I actually have a lot of faith in the ability of people to come to a point one day where they say, I can't let this hold me back anymore, and no matter how big it is, right?
So it would be pain, like the main motivator or whatever to actually make a change.
I think so. I had therapy clients that weren't in much pain and they didn't do much work either.
Yeah.
I didn't really like working with them, but the guys who were like couldn't pay anything and were homeless, and they'd come in and go, I have nothing left. This is all I have. Working in group is all I have left. I would love to work with those guys. So yeah, I think sometimes it's that.
Yeah, I love hearing this here, and I appreciate the question at the near. Just from from even just right before this conversation, I ended up having a client that I realized like we're complete. Like we had been working together for a while. Things were fine, but like the person just wasn't showing up in the way that like the relationship needed. And I was like, oh, right now this isn't painful enough for you to actually make a decision. It's a nice to have, but we're going to be caught in a like a cycle of of um of examining rather than the cycle of actually being out in the world, taking action, and then running into the next problem rather than the same problems over and over again because of a lack of action here. So, like this, there's an action theme that's coming through for me as we play out, and it's making me think through this as it goes along. David, I'm curious about any thoughts that are running through you as this conversation's evolving.
Yeah, I actually resonate with what Craig and Ben said, that believing first and putting it into action. In fact, back in 2020, during the pandemic, during the lockdown, I wrote this book, Step Out, Step In, and I realized that a lot of people have the potential, but most people are caught up in their comfort zone. Now, I based that story on Matthew 14, where early in the morning, Jesus was walking on the sea when he asked the disciples to go to the other side. In the middle of the sea, they encountered a storm. Out of 12 disciples, one decided to do something different, to step out of the place of comfort and to step into the waters that was raging boisterous. And I realized that I had found myself in that place of comfort. I always want to be in the back end, not in the front. I'm an introvert as well. So I always want to be behind the scenes, but I realize that that is not helping. It is about time that I step out or do the action. I had always wanted to do something different. First of all, I believed it, but then I had to put action to it. And by putting action to it, yes, I've started, I stepped out, I jumped, and I realized that it's making a tremendous impact on other people. Um, Sometimes I take it as one person at a time. And that really helps. And that also helps in causing this ripple effect. If it's one person at a time, they can always share what they have learned from what you're giving out.
So I want to like present something here because it showed up here twice here, which is like the element of being an introvert, and like the way I think about being an introvert is it's about introverted extroverts and being how you get your energy. Like, are you energized by being with other people, or are you more like energized by being by yourself? Ben, I'm really curious for you. Do you know whether you're an introvert or an extrovert?
I'm both.
You're both, right? All right, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was one of those things where like part of the reason I asked this here is because like I was listening to your story here and I'm like, I wouldn't be surprised if Ben was also an introvert, right? Like because for two different reasons here. But one of them just being like, regardless of the circumstance, like what are the actions that you're taking? Right. And I really felt that come through with you, Ben, quite early. So and a lot of times that people see like, oh wow, you have a lot of followers, you're out in the world, you're doing all these things, you must have this certain type of energy to allow that to take place. And it's just like, no, we just find our ways to navigate through that. So I wanted to presence that in this conversation because I like there are introverts that lead huge organizations and introverts that lead things in small rooms and that I want to I guess I want to put that out here for any of you outliers that are listening to this and like wondering like there's only one way I can be. Like there's actually just I want to create the space to play with that. Any thoughts on that before I bring in the next question?
Dude, I think a lot of people they think that in order to be X, Y, and Z or level up in life, they have to be so smiley and outgoing and friendly personality and your typical like car salesman, like, hey, how's it going? And all this stuff. And that's not reality. Like me by nature, dude, I love my space. Like I love spending time by myself. I love training by myself. I love going to the gym by myself. I love going on runs by myself. I love reading by myself. I love working by myself. Now, my purpose and what God showed me about my life is that, and the career that I chose is that it's part of a lot of it's people. I got to deal with a lot of people, social media, company that I'm building, my teams and everything. So I had to develop the skills of an extrovert, social skills, communication, leadership, leading teams, and all that stuff, like learning how to listen, conviction, and all these other stuff. So I think those things are skills that you can obtain, that you can have, and you can get to choose which version of yourself can come out. But I think a lot of people, they honestly, they justify themselves of like, oh, I'm not good at sales, I'm not good at this, I'm not good at communicating because I'm an introvert. I'm like, no, dude, it's honestly just a lie you're telling yourself because you can get to that point, even though it's uncomfortable. Don't get me wrong, but if you want to win in life, if you want to grow, the only way you can grow is through pain. Like if you, we see this all the time. Like if you want to, you go to the gym, you want to build a muscle, you gotta break to build. You gotta destroy this to build it. Same thing with your life. If you want to grow, you gotta destroy yourself to grow. You cannot build without breaking. It doesn't work like that. And a lot of people, they expect everything to be easy and smooth and to no, you have to suffer. If you want to go to the next level, level up, and that's what you're talking in the beginning, you must pain. You must have pain. You must suffer. You must be extremely uncomfortable. I make my life harder every single day intentionally because I want to grow more than other people. So I make my life more hard than it already is because I want to keep growing. That's the only way you can do it. Break to build.
Make that real for us, Ben, because like there's I feel you energetically and I hear it and I'm like, all right, so like tell me about like a place where you suffered and how that like made a difference for your journey here.
When I got into ultra marathon running, I realized, okay, part of my life is I'm gonna become an entrepreneur. And this is the reality of entrepreneurship that in social media everybody's telling you, be your own business. This is the statistic. 7% of the population are entrepreneurs. Less than 1% actually makes more than seven figures. It's a very small percentage. And I assume that statistic is way lower now, but it's very small, less than 1%. It takes a special type of person to make that amount of money to actually build something successful. Anyone can have a business, but not everybody can have a successful business. It's a completely two different things. So once I understood what I wanted to do with my life, okay, that's what I want. It's extremely hard. It takes a lot of skills and grit and everything. Okay, I'm gonna build myself into somebody who just won't quit and somebody that is just can handle anything that life can give me. And that's when I started taking risks in business. I started all these new projects. I got into ultra marathons because I'm like, dude, what's the hardest thing I can do? I just have a stress fracture in my foot. Can I run a marathon next weekend? I think I can pull it off. 26-mile, blow up my meniscus, then have surgery like 3 weeks after. Then I pull up a 50 mile or 3 months after that, like with less than 2 weeks of training, just because I wanted to see what I was made of, what I was built for to do. But I wanted to make my life harder intentionally because life is already hard. And the only way you can manage life and just thrive in life is to do hard things with your habits in your training. I love training MMA. You know why? Sorry for the word, but I get my ass kicked every single day. I got guys that humble me every single day, and I freaking love it. Because then I'm like, dude, I get punched every day. Oh, I gotta pay this stuff. I gotta do payroll. That's nothing. I've done way harder things before. Like that's nothing. That's peanuts. And family stuff or my goals, dude. I want to build one of the biggest brands in the world. And that's very all like pressure wise and everything is very tough. I've been screwed over by business partners, people, coworkers, and everything. And I mean, even though that's something I didn't choose, but it just happened. But I'm built to endure. I'm not a smart guy, but I know that if I make my life harder, whatever life gives me, I'm like, dude, that's peanuts. Like I've done harder stuff before, you know?
So let's
So
bring. No, I appreciate it, Ben. Like, it's an interesting part of conversation that we're having right now. I'm glad that we're having it because I like to create space and see like, all right, let's actually like dive in. Like, would y'all mind talking here? Ben, you talked a little bit about like the hard stuff, like some of like the challenges, the suffering that you went through here, and you're like, I do this on purpose, right? Um, I haven't ran a marathon, and I've never had a stress fracture. So that puts a smile on my face. I want to bring Craig and David in here. I'm curious about some of the things that I want to almost call about like the hidden costs, the things that most people wouldn't know that like that you had to invest in order for you to play at the level that you play right now. Again, with that idea of like most people see the success, most people see what we look like on the outside, and they say, I wish, or wouldn't it be easy? And they're like, but they aren't willing to do what it took to get there. right? And I'm not saying that anyone's journey has to be your journey, but I want to give outliers a chance to be able to listen, to think back on their own journey and recognize how much they've already put in to get there, to get where they are, and how much, like, where else they can take it from it. So, David, Greg, any of you want to take that off from anywhere?
I'm thinking of a therapy session I was in as a client rather than as a therapist many years ago. And I was working in the corporate world as a tech writer and had a family life, was married, wasn't happy. And at one point I was talking to the therapist about it, and I said, I'm trying hard to be a really good husband, and we might have kids someday and do the family thing and all that. And she said, you're going to have to realize someday that one thing that you can never be is ordinary. You're never going to be happy in that kind of a situation. She wasn't saying you shouldn't get married. She wasn't saying you shouldn't have kids or a family or anything. She was challenging my fantasy of normality, that, this kind of white middle class thing that we get conditioned into, right? And she was right. So the marriage didn't last, and I don't have kids. And there's a certain price tag with that, but there's also things I get to do that I couldn't do otherwise. People often ask me how do you write all those books and do all that teaching and all that? And it's like, because I have time to, right?
Okay. One of the things that I also have done in the past was develop my mental toughness. You know, a few years ago I was diagnosed. I was on the borderline of type 2 diabetes, and one of the things that I had to do was to exercise and eat healthy. That is quite challenging, but in the aspect of exercising, I decided to walk at least a minimum of 4 miles a day, regardless of the weather. There are days that you wake up and it's like, do you really want to do this in this cold weather? Do you want to do this when it's raining? I remember one time I set off and it was raining early in the morning, and I was the only one on the road. I thought that was so crazy doing. But then it was something that I decided to do to help my health, to improve on my health, and also to build on my mental toughness. Now, when I started the podcast, writing these scripts comes with looking for topics to write about and putting them together. It takes a whole lot of time, and sometimes you get burnt out. But I decided that if I want to do this, I have to get out of the place of comfort. I have to put more on myself in order to help others. I'm not doing this for myself, even though sometimes what I write helps me though, but I want to help somebody out there. Because I realize, just like Ben said, there are a lot of people with potential, but the fear of stepping out of that comfort zone and stepping into what they've been purposed to do is what has been challenging. So in with all this, it's not always easy. But of course, nobody's been called to anything easy. If everything were to be easy, everybody would have been a champion. But we've been called to something that is worth it. And that is what I wake up every morning, having this mental toughness to do what I do.
But, so y'all are getting me to want to pursue a specific type of question right now, and that comes down to standards. So, like, I'm enjoying this conversation about, like, actually really challenging yourself, and I think that's something that, like, outliers, like, lean into, right? It's like the fact that we're on our own path is because we kept making decisions, kept making choices that took us out of the comfort zone, right? And I'm really curious, as y'all go on, I find that, think about outliers where that trajectory starts to slow down, all right? And I'm really curious about, like, how you keep yourself engaged in continuing to move forward, and what the avenue that I'm thinking about is through the standards that you have, right? So I'm curious, Ben. I'm going to start with you on this one here. I like yeah, I feel that feels right. Talk to me about, like, the standards that you make, the standards that you keep, and how you, like, how you actually like use that to actually not even about how you use it, man. But what I care about here, especially when I think about the outliers, is like the thing that I think gets in people's way is their thoughts on how other people will receive them if they actually upheld their standards, if they kept themselves up to that point there. And I'm really curious about how you navigate that.
So when it comes to standards, or with what you mentioned before, like how do you keep the drive of keep doing
Bring
it?
in.
And
That's a good question. So for me, the standards is the place that I like to focus on. But if that's not like, if it's not like a frame that you use to think about it, then answer the other question. But
well, I think it comes down to like what do you want? You know, like what are you chasing? Like what do you want to build? Like for me, I've chased money before. I've chased girls before. I've chased the world so many times. And once I realized that it's not fulfilling at all and that I needed more meaning and purpose in my life, I'm like, nah, dude, I wanna feel like God is working through me. I want to feel that my life has meaning and that I'm making a difference. I'm here for people. And guess what? There's 7 billion people in the world. So that's a never ending thing. Well, with money, you can grab it and you can have it. With the cars, you can buy this car, you can have it. All this stuff, you can have it, which is, it's great. Don't get me wrong. I'm all about it. I love material stuff, but it's not my priority. But I think once you focus on people and and you want to serve, and it's not about you anymore. This is the cool thing about standards that you brought up. Your standards level up. Why? Because in order to truly be selfless, you first need to be selfish. You will not hear a single thing coming out of my mouth that I haven't done first in my life. I love Christ's story, and I'm glad David is talking a lot about it. Christ's biggest invitation was, "Come, follow me." He didn't say, "Hey, go do what I do." I'm sorry, go do what I tell you to do. Do what I say. No, he said, "Walk with me. Come sleep where I sleep. Come eat what I eat. Come talk to the people that I talk to. Come do the stuff that I do. Come feel what I feel." And I think a lot of people, they're good at talkers. Now we have the phone, social media. Everybody can post a motivational thing. Everybody can start a podcast. Everybody can write a book. Everybody can do public speaking. We're good at it because it doesn't require sometimes evidence. But the most powerful example of leadership is leading by example. And I think once you make your purpose people, I'm like, they're watching me. I need to raise my standards because I'm a leader now. I'm speaking from a position of leadership. And I was having a conversation with one of my business partners yesterday because we do a program together, I know, like community. And I told him, I'm like, Hunter, other people can mess up. You can't. You know why? Because people look up to you. Because people follow you. Because people would say, if Hunter did it, I can do it. If Hunter's out there drinking and doing all this bad stuff and hooking up with girls, I can do it because he did it. That's why you cannot mess up. That's why you need to live your life with the highest standard of excellence. And Hunter, I'm sorry, brother, but that's who you are. You're a natural born leader. That's what God created you to be. And that's the price of leadership. It's a beautiful thing because you get to be an instrument in God's hands and truly influence people. But on the flip side, it's very stressful, has a lot of pressure, and you need to consecrate and make a lot of sacrifices because you cannot mess up like everybody else does. You are that 1%, and you need to raise your standards like that 1%. So I think it's a combination of people, purpose, and once you focus on people, the standards just raised by itself because you realize is come follow me now. It's not do what I tell you to do. It's come follow me. Do what I do. So
I like this. Let's play with this, David. What's coming up for you on either anything that Ben just said or around standards? Like let's bring that into the space.
Yeah, I'd really want high standards because once you raise the standard, you can go lower anymore. You can lower your standards. And in order to raise your standards, you have to be ready to go through that shift, the mindset, the shift in mindset, learning. Um, just as Ben said, people are looking up to you. So if people are looking up to you, you have to be the example you're out there. And one of the things is you can give what you don't have. So you first and foremost, you have to raise that standard. And for those that are following, those that are looking up to you, those that you're mentoring, they will also know that this is not something that you go through so easy. The road is not, it's not cozy, it is not easy. You have to put in the work in order to get there. And in order for you to get to those high standards, you have to put in the work.
Yeah, Craig, is anything coming to you on this one?
Yeah, I'm reminded of a decision I made about maybe a year ago, a year and a half ago. I've been reading and writing science fiction, like near future stuff, for a while, and just kind of for my own entertainment. And about a year ago, I thought, or more than that, actually, I thought I'd like to write science fiction that actually reaches people and changes their consciousness and gives them a sense of solidarity with each other and promotes diversity. And also, I wanted to slip in a bit of spiritual stuff, but without preaching at people, right? To make it entertaining. And so I took about a year to train to do that. And writing science fiction is really different from the kind of writing I'm used to doing as an academic, right? Totally different set of skills. So I noticed about people that I asked in terms of like self-publishing. I've published commercially, but I publish my fiction myself. And part of the reason I do that is because in terms of standards, I can't stand to write anything that I don't like and that doesn't sound good to my ear. So a couple of times I've written things and then I go back to it a few months later and I go, I don't like this. And so I make some changes. I'm pretty picky. And so standards in terms of, is this a good message to give people? Or will people come away from reading my stuff not only entertained, which is great, but thinking differently? And so that's part of the standard I put on myself when I write. So
Y'all, I appreciate you here. We're about to start wrapping up the conversation. There's something I don't want to miss here. And Ben, you said something earlier that I think we might have to go back and re-listen to this, Outliers. But Ben was talking earlier about leadership, and when you were talking about leadership, Ben, you brought up you're like it was in a conversation we were talking about being an introvert or not, or like playing in that around that time. And when we started talking about leadership, one of the things that I think is really easy to miss about what you did there was that you actually broke down leadership into very specific skills. Like and what was cool about it is like what I got about you is that like you have taken on both an understanding of that skill, yes, but really mastery of it. And not mastery in the sense of like you're like, oh, I've communicated, I've gotten my certification, I'm master at it, I never have to learn it again. No, you're still going on with it. But what I could tell was just the way that you were able to break down what most people think of leadership as this like a amorphous kind of term, and you're able to break it down into like it's like composite skills that come along with it. And I want to make sure that like before we end this conversation that we bring that into focus here, Outliers, because there's something here. There different micro skills that all kind of latch themselves up into macro skills. And I felt like Ben, you really like you did it like you did it pretty effortlessly. You're like, we have to work on the communication, to work on being able to hire. Like you brought in like these very specific things. And I want to bring that into space here because you also said like then you just do the work to build the skills. That's my interpretation of what you said, Ben. You didn't use those exact language. But right before we wrap up here, I want to presence that, bring that into space. Ben, I'll let you say one more thing since I called on you specifically around this. And then what we'll do is we'll wrap up the conversation overall.
No, dude, I mean, no, you're right. Like a lot of people think that, oh yeah, but he has it, he's talented, he's gifted. I'm like, I'm from Chile, from San Felipe. I almost committed suicide back in 2017. I got kicked out of college. My GPA was 0.97. I had nothing going on like growing up for me. Like it was just hanging out with my friends, doing dumb stuff. I'm not a smart kid. I failed math 1050, not one time, two times, three, four times, because I suck at it. I'm pretty dumb. I'm pretty sure my IQ is pretty low. But this is the thing. I attribute everything to God, because I truly believe that we are a spiritual being first, having a physical experience. And a lot of people, they do this physical stuff, they go to gym, trying to make money and all this stuff, but they forget to work on their spirituality. Even though I said that you build the skills and stuff, because I've done the work for communication, speaking, leading people, understanding people, seeing people for who they are and seeing the truth and knowing what to say and all this stuff. Those are skills that I've built for sure. I put in the work. But if it wasn't for God, there is no way in heaven I would have been as effective as I am today. Because once I understood that my purpose, He chose me. And once I understood that He chose me, I'm like, crap, but I'm an introvert, but I don't have the skills. But I have all these weaknesses. You know what? I've been chosen. I can't deny who I am. That's part of my purpose. Let's get to work. Let's build into that person that He wants me to be, regardless if I like it or not. Because my motive, which is people, is stronger than what I want for myself. It's not about me anymore. And I'm willing to do whatever it takes to fulfill that purpose and mission that He called me to do. I don't know if you guys talk a lot about spirituality and God and everything here, but to be honest, that's been the main force in my life. So
Well, I appreciate you bringing it in. Like it's interesting because it's not something I call in specifically, but like spirituality keeps showing up, and sometimes it shows up in religious elements, sometimes it shows up in other elements, but it keeps showing up. It's not lost on me, especially because I'm not asking for it, like I'm not like, hey, come on in here to come talk
yeah,
about your faith or anything like that. But it keeps showing up in that space. It's not something even that I even go out into the world and really speak about. But I think that there's something here for me in the sense of like I really want to keep showcasing to people, and and
yeah,
and and the fullness of them, and to be like, you may not think that this is a part of it, but it's showing up for a certain segment of people. It's showing up, and if that's you. If you're thinking I can't be successful and have faith, or I can only be successful if I like this, it's all the things. And so like I like to create space for that in our conversations. I'm not a spiritual leader in that regard there, but like I like to just make sure that people are seeing what's taking place. So I want to
totally.
open up more,
And
but like
yeah,
I have to wrap up this conversation here. So what I do want to do is just say like thank you all for bringing yourselves here and bringing the fullness of you. I'm not gonna lie, I feel energized. I feel like I feel energized, and I feel energized to like step up my own like standard. Like there's something about the space to say like it's not that you're not too much. It's like there's even more to be giving. And there's something that's really lovely about that. So thank you all for playing this and showing how you all lead your own way. Outliers, my ask of you here is that there's someone in your world right now who would probably really benefit from this conversation. I'm actually sure of it. There's someone in your world who would really benefit from this conversation. And we have an initiative here that goes like, please go share this on all your platforms, leave the reviews, like get this out into the world. We would really appreciate that. But underneath it all, we have this one person, one conversation at a time initiative where I really believe that if you're able to just share this message as a gift to someone and say, hey, I was listening to Craig, David, and Ben to have this conversation, and I think it would really benefit you given what you are up to in the world or given where you are right now. I would ask for you to take the time to share this episode with that one person as a gift. Something tells me that like out of all the bigness that this can be, those individual messages, one person at a time, one conversation at a time, it's going to be the thing that actually makes the underlying ripple and change. So my ask is please take that time to think of someone and let them know you're thinking of them through this. We're going to wrap up. The way we wrap up our conversations is that we share how outliers can go deeper in the journey with you, right? And by sharing your best contact information, and then also sharing an insight that you are leaving this conversation with, something that you're taking away. And if you didn't get any insights, you can just say that as well. All right. But if you can share your contact, the best way for allies to go deeper with you and an insight you got from the conversation, we'll wrap up in the air. Why don't we start with you, David? What's the best way outliers can go deeper with you?
Once again, thank you for the invite, and I believe this has been a very productive conversation, and with outliers, with what you're doing, it's going to impact the world and generations to come. Just as you said, one conversation at a time. And as we keep sharing, I believe that this is going to impact somebody out there who has totally lost themselves. And based on what Craig and Ben have shared, and most especially what Ben shared, it's going to resonate with a lot of people. So let's go out there and share that. My podcast is on Mondays. I do it live. I don't record. I just want to be authentic. We get all the flaws out. It's on Mondays at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and you can contact me at stepoutsteppingpodcast@gmail.com.
Thank you, David. Thanks for being here. Craig, how about you? And then Ben, you'll bring us home.
Thanks, Niiamah. I appreciate the chance to meet all of you, Niiamah and David and Ben, and to have this space to speak a little bit about stuff that really matters. And in terms of contact, my last name is my website, so Chalquist.com has everything there, social media links, podcast, everything. And I'll leave you with a question. So what inspires you? That's the key. What inspires you?
Thank you, Craig. And Ben, will you bring us home here? What's an insight you got from this conversation? And then what is the best way that people can, dive deeper with you?
You know, for anybody listening, I hope this can be a wake-up call for you. Because I look around, I look at kind of like what's going on with society, and it's not that there's bad leaders or bad influences or bad role models. There's a lot of it for sure. But I truly believe the problem is that there's great, amazing leaders and people that are not speaking up, that are not showing up, that are not doing what they're created to do. And they have shame, they have fear, and they have doubt. Well, my invitation is, I don't care if you have fear, doubt, or you're scared. But if you feel called, you were chosen. And it's your duty to God. And it's your obligation to stand up, speak up, and become the guy and the woman that our Creator created you to be. Like it or not. You cannot run away from your duty and what you were ordained to do. And it's not a sense of like, yeah, I'm going to help some people. Yeah, that's part of it. But it's a sense of obligation. And it has a lot of benefits because you get to truly feel meaning, purpose, and fulfillment in your life. But the world needs leaders. The world needs inspiration. The world needs good people that are showing others what's possible. So that would be my last invitation. There's a reason why you're here right now and you weren't born 1,500 years ago. There's a reason why you're now in 2024. We live in the worst period of the earth, And you're here for a reason because you were chosen. Step up to that. And then the second one, mainly Instagram, that's where I do a lot of stuff, is Benja PP201. And my YouTube channel, I have like a couple thousand subscribers now. I'm trying to build it way more, but just Instagram, Benja PP201. That's where I post all my stuff. So anyway, appreciate you guys, and thank you for this conversation as well.
Yeah, thank you all here. Thank you for playing the games that you play. Thank you for showing up the way that you do. Outliers, we got you. We want to keep answering the call, right? With that being said, remember this: go out there and be you on purpose. Journey all.